Hey, on today's podcast, we talk about finCEN, the Financial Crime Enforcement Network. Now, finCEN takes place in real estate coming March 1st. You might be surprised to find out this doesn't just affect buyers, it also affects sellers. It's a form the government is asking for you to turn in before you can close. If you want to learn more, stay tuned.
Welcome to Real TMI, the podcast made for realtors by realtors. No sales fluff, no sugarcoating, just the tea on what really moves the market.
So what is going on, everybody? Jordan and I are back, and we have a fun topic to talk about. Coming March 1st is a brand new requirement called finCEN when you go to close on a property. Jordan, I'm going to lean on you a lot for this one to kind of give us the overview of what finCEN is. So what do you know, man?
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. So finCEN is a new federally required reporting for certain transactions in real estate. And it's as a result or as a purpose of trying to combat money laundering with real estate transactions. There's certain deals that are going to qualify as having this additional reporting requirement. And so buyers and sellers in the market need to be aware, is it likely to apply to the transaction that they're looking to get involved with, or is it still the same old thing that they're used to?
Okay, so let's get into it. What triggers finCEN? When does this finCEN requirement come into play? What should we know?
So for any deals starting March 1st, closings after March 1st, 2026, any deals that are for cash or like private financing, not a traditional mortgage, and where the purchaser is an entity, either like an LLC or a trust. If those two requirements have been met, where it's not an individual and or not a traditional mortgage, then there will be a reporting requirement placed on both the purchaser and the seller for that transaction.
Right. So what a lot of people don't understand is when you accept this offer that is cash or private financing, and it is an LLC, a trust, or some sort of non-person entity, the seller has to do something.
Yes.
Now, you've dove into this a little bit. Is it burdensome on the seller?
No. I mean,
Okay.
it's just a form. Will take a couple of moments, a couple of minutes to fill out with information that should be in the seller's head if they're a typical seller where they've owned the property just as individuals themselves. So asking for the property address, their name, their birthday, social security number, nothing that they need to even look up. If they've owned the property as sellers and they're looking to sell, but they owned it as an LLC or a trust, they may need to look up their EIN number. But that's really the only requirements for the seller's side, is that they just need to fill out this form from the title company and turn it into the title company before they get to the closing table.
So listing agents shouldn't be afraid to accept these offers from these non-person entities. They shouldn't be scared to, because it doesn't really trigger a lot on the sales side except for a few questions they should already have the answers to.
Correct. Yeah. So if you're a listing agent and you receive an offer that is a purchaser that's a non-individual and the financing is cash, so you should be aware that, okay, finCEN is going to apply. You need to advise your seller client that, yes, by accepting this offer, they are agreeing to the reporting requirement that comes along with it, because getting to the closing table, just as sellers already have the obligation to clean up title if any clouds arise, here's just another hurdle that sellers will have to do to get to the closing table, but it's such a low hurdle. All it really is you take a couple of moments to fill out this form and send it in. If it was occurring at the closing table, like most of the stuff typically does, it wouldn't be even on our radar at all. The only reason why we're discussing it is because it's a new reporting requirement that requires action before you get to the closing table.
Okay, let's play a game, because this actually then does affect, if you're a buyer's agent and you work with investors or you work with these entities, it affects them a lot. So how about you and I play a little bit of a role-playing game? You cool?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, can I take on a Texan accent and just be representing my LLC?
All
All
right.
right, we're going to do this. All right, Jordan, I really want to buy this here house. Should I do this the whole time? No, we're not. We're not going to do it that way. All right. So I want to write an offer on this house, Jordan. You know that I buy my houses in LLCs. How do you start explaining this to me as the buyer that is going to make this purchase.
Okay, so yeah, clearly you've bought and sold many homes over the last decade because you're an investor and this is what you do as part of your portfolio. So the first question I need to ask you as your buyer's agent is, okay, when you plan to write this offer for your next purchase, are you going to be doing so in your name as an individual or in the name of an LLC or non-individual entity?
Well, shoot, boy, I always put all my properties in an LLC. We're done. We're done with that one. But yes, I do plan to buy this in an LLC.
Okay. And then for the financing side, were you going to be obtaining a mortgage or looking to do cash or private financing?
I am going to definitely be using cash.
Okay. So then LLC using cash, there's going to be a FinCEN requirement that occurs after the offer gets accepted, but before you get to the closing table.
Okay, what am I supposed to do then?
So, well, the level of difficulty really depends on how is your LLC arranged? Is it just you as the sole owner, or are there additional owners on the LLC?
For this one, I'm the sole owner, but I do have other LLCs that I have multiple owners on. Would
Okay.
we all have to go through this process?
So, for this form that you're going to need to fill out as part of the reporting requirement, each owner on the LLC does have a section that they set of questions that they need to answer. It's not burdensome, but it does need to identify every owner of the entity. And so the more owners on the LLC, the more burdensome the reporting requirement becomes. For this transaction that you're the only owner of the LLC that's purchasing the home, then yeah, it's going to take you a couple of moments to fill it out. You may need to look up your bank account information. It's going to ask basically questions about the property, about the entity, the LLC, and all the owners of it, and then where the funds are coming from. Any accounts that you're using as the purchase funds, you're going to need to know account numbers and institution names and those sorts of things.
Okay, let me ask the question that I really need to know. Is the government going to step in here and stop me from buying this house because I filled out this form?
No. So this is a form that the title company is going to require before you get to closing because the burden is placed on them to file it after closing. So after you've already taken ownership, you signed all the docs at the closing table, that's when then the title company sends in the reporting form to the government. But title companies, I assume across the board, are all going to require you to fill out this form and answer these questions before you get to the closing table. Because if they don't file it, then they, as the title company, are taking on massive financial and legal liability. And so it's one of those situations where a form that would normally be filled out at the closing table is just going to be instead required to be filled out earlier on in the process in order to remove that risk, concern, and liability from the title company.
Okay, so what you're saying is the government won't step in and stop me from buying this house, but a good title company isn't going to let me close if I haven't filled out these forms.
Correct. Yeah. And so you don't ever have to wait on a response from the government. Once you've filled it out and sent it back to the title company, you've done your part, and then it's on them to, after closing, send that form out to the government. And then the government is just going to take that information, compile it in a database, and use it for whatever anti-money laundering purposes that they're trying to achieve.
So getting back to this conversation, you don't see this being a big issue, honestly. Like this kind of feels like it does nothing, goes nowhere. You just got to fill these questions out before you go to close. I do want to take a moment to tell the people that if you feel like this is invasive and you want to maybe purchase it in your name and then later put it into an LLC, I want to pause right here and talk about how that actually is kind of insurance fraud because you're getting title insurance when you close on that property. The moment that you transfer it to an LLC or a trust or anything like that, you are losing that insurance policy. So anybody that involved in that transaction that's aware that you're going to do that, they could actually get in a little bit of trouble for participating in that sort of a transaction. It does happen, but when you do it intentionally just to avoid a government requested document, then you can get into a lot of trouble. So
Well,
just
in
don't think that's the
reality,
way around.
you're even if you're just transferring ownership, even if it's not a transaction with money involved, if it's just that you're transferring property you currently own as an individual and you want to transfer it into the name of an LLC, that is still going to trigger a FinCEN requirement. So whoever is helping you with that quitclaim deed into your LLC, they would possibly be taking on the liability if you don't fill out the FinCEN form at that point. So it's not
So
even a
as a
good
s-
workaround.
Yeah, so as a savvy investor who might know how to file my own quitclaim deed with the Register of Deeds, as the one recording that quitclaim deed, I myself am the one responsible for turning in that document.
That's my
That could be
interpretation,
the
but
way
I'm not a
that's
lawyer.
interpreted, right? Yeah. Yeah, Jordan doesn't even play a lawyer on television, so we we're not giving you legal advice, but as brokers in the real estate industry, we know that when people try to cut the corners and find ways around it, you can still be held liable. And some of it could even be considered illegal in some situations, like in the sake of insurance fraud and things like that. So do this the right way. If your LLC is not set up in a way that you can be transparent in this, maybe you need to consider a different path because we have a lot of problems with money laundering. As somebody that has helped a lot of people with LLCs, I understand how easy it is to hide money inside of different corporations. I like this. I like moving forward that we are having some transparency in who these transactions are taking place with because anyone and their brother can start an LLC. We need to know who it is that owns these properties and how this money is moving around.
Yeah. And then for 90% of the transactions out there, anybody where it's the purchaser is as an individual or any time that there's a mortgage involved, it's the FinCEN requirements do not apply. And so it's going to be the same as always. So in a lot of ways, we're not going to see much that is different after March 1st.
All right. Jordan, you get any other nuggets of wisdom for us?
Yeah, so basically what I recommend though is all agents should review their forms and try to make sure that, especially their purchase agreements, that they are compliant with these FinCEN requirements, because if you have a new burden being placed on sellers, if they accept your offer, that burden is that they have to report information for FinCEN, then you want that language in the contract explicitly where they are acknowledging and agreeing to do so.
Yeah. Well, that's good information. All right, man. Well, FinCEN takes place on March 1st. Jordan, I believe that if you have contracts that are starting, we're recording this in early February. Now is the time. If you're starting to work with buyers, you have to start paying attention to this now. If you're working with sellers, you do need to pay attention to this now because it is coming, and you do not want a title company to call you up the day before and be like, oh, yeah, an LLC is purchasing this property. Guess what you guys got to do? So you don't want to be caught off guard. You want to look like the knowledgeable realtor that you're supposed to be.
Yes,
Hence the reason we have this conversation, right, Jordan?
absolutely.
All right. Well, you want to say bye to everyone?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation and I look forward to the next one.
All right. Peace.